Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me this afternoon is my favorite, besides Patrick, is Jeff Dostalek, Fitch-Rona EMS Deputy Chief. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and being on the show. It's been a while.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Anytime, huh?
Yes.
Well, we'll see you next week then, Wednesday.
Perfect. Same time, same bad channel.
Whoa. Pump the brakes. All right, we've got a serious topic to talk about today.
Yes.
It's become, you hate to say it, in only Jeremy's opinion, but maybe somewhat of the norm of these mass shootings or mass whatever you want to fill in the blank of people getting hurt. And you and I actually talked on the show, and you showed us how this works, but we're talking about Stop the Bleed today. And I bring up the topic because not only are you guys certified to teach it, and you've been teaching in the community here over a year now, you're getting into the schools as well.
Yes.
Which is always it's been a target for a long time for places, but I think everybody should take this. I think this should be as big as CPR when we're getting to this, and it's as easy to me. It's as easy as CPR in a way, if you can get over some of the barriers of what's going on in front of you. But anyway, I digress. Jeff, first and foremost, what is the Stop the Bleed?
So the Stop the Bleed program is a program that has been put out, and it is sort of like CPR. We've taken it out into the community. We did a Verona school district in service for their staff, or assisted with their staff, in putting tourniquets and combat gauze and just general wound care in the event that. We always assume that the Stop the Bleed is going to be towards the active shooter type incident, but anyone could have a severe laceration and need to have a tourniquet or some wound care. So the school district approached us to be part of their event. They received money through their grant that they put in to safen the schools, and the plan for them is to put Stop the Bleed kits or wound care kits in each of the classrooms. I know they're reaching out to try and figure out what the costs are going to be for that and put those in there. And really, we're hoping that industry does that as well. You mentioned the active shooter incident, and of course, we all know in our area the Middleton incident was the talk of the town for a while. I happened to be at the movie theater over the holiday weekend and talked to my wife about what would happen if somebody walked through the door. And knowing what to do because we've trained on it, but really not having a kit with me and not knowing that there was one there. So I think it's really important that the community, the industry, the businesses that are out there look into providing the Stop the Bleed program. It takes about an hour. We have several of our staff members that are able to go out and teach it, and take an hour out of your day to in-service your staff. And we know we think about schools and all of those high target areas, but really I don't know that those are always the places that you're going to see. So for example, in Middleton, it was not a school, it was a business, and it could happen to any business or any public area. But to reach out and get those kits and take an hour out of your day to train on those.
Yeah, and again, it's when these incidents happen, it's things have changed, and we've heard the stories of we're trying to get to get the threat neutralized as fast as possible from the PD side of things. So they may run right past you because they're trying to neutralize the threat, but we're also trying to get our emergency personnel in to get to people faster. But basically, this Stop the Bleed. You basically could save somebody's life who's bleeding out, by just as simple as putting pressure on. But if you can get your access to these kits,
right,
you're going to make a significant difference, just like a CPR would, getting on there and getting on the chest as fast as possible.
Correct. Yeah, we talk about quick response, and we know that those active shooter incidents are over within 3 to 5 minutes. And we know EMS is not going to be there in 3 to 5 minutes. By the time it gets called in, we get dispatched and we drive and all of that kind of stuff. Most of those incidents are already over. But within that time frame, if you have a tourniquet on you or some combat gauze, or just some basic knowledge on putting direct pressure and elevation, the things we're taught in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, you can most definitely save somebody's life. And there was always a fear in the past about putting a tourniquet on and somebody's going to lose their limb and all that, and that's not the case. So, we're asking people businesses to go out and invest in the training, invest in the kits, individuals as well. Sitting in the movie theater thinking to myself, I don't have a tourniquet on me. Like, what would happen? And just that 5 seconds that you can throw a tourniquet on, recognize that somebody's could bleed out, and stop it, is you'll save somebody's life, just like doing CPR and defibrillation.
You've got some of the accessories here on the table. Yep. Not hard to see. We actually got a graphic here too of showing what to do. But if you could just go through the steps really quick. And you did this with us during the summer, and I'd encourage you to go back and watch that. But basically, if you could just go through the 3 steps here on wound care.
Sure. So the first thing to do is really pretty basic. Is just direct pressure. Putting your hand over the wound. Pushing as hard as you can to try and get the bleeding to stop. And if it's a small wound, it's going to stop just basic natural coagulation of the bleeding. It's going to make it stop. And then if you have some kind of dressing, so we tell people, if you have combat gauze and you go out and buy that, that's great. But if you have to take a shirt and put it over the top of it and push down as hard as you can, do that. If the shirt's dirty, then that's what you got to do. I mean, the wound can be cleansed and it can be debrided and all of that stuff. So expose the bleeding, firm pressure on the bleeding site with a bandage or a cloth if you can. And then if you can't get the bleeding to stop with those 2 things, then apply the tourniquet. So there are 2 different types of tourniquets. We have the soft T and the cat tourniquet, and it's just kind of a personal preference on what you have in your kit. Put the tourniquet on as high as you can on the wound. So they say 3 inches above the wound, but I would just suggest people putting it up as high as you can. So there are for extremities, so arms and legs. Put the tourniquet on. Pull it as tight as you can. The windlet, just tighten it down as much as you can tighten it down. Lock it in place, and then just put the date and the time on there, and tighten it till the bleeding stops. If the bleeding doesn't stop and you put another tourniquet on it, then do that, or put direct pressure on it, but get the bleeding to stop. When you talk about things such as central chest wounds or wounds that might happen in the armpits or the groin, then we use combat gauze for that, and we pack those wounds with combat gauze, which helps stop the bleeding. And really, that's the basic 3 things that you can do: is push hard, push long, put a tourniquet on. It's like push hard and fast for CPR, push hard, right, and hold it down until the bleeding stops.
Yeah, they say with the tourniquet, from the training that the EMS personnel get, is that you don't turn it hard enough. You think you're turning it hard enough, but you really do need to crank on that to stop it. And they said if the bleeding stops, you're done. You're getting there.
Right.
You're done. And it's not going to be comfortable, but you're saving potentially could be saving somebody's life there,
right,
and doing that.
And we tell people, it's going to hurt. And you should tell the person that you're putting it on this is not going to be comfortable, but don't be deterred by the fact that it's hurting, because what you're doing is you're saving their life by the 10 or 15 seconds that you can take to put a tourniquet on.
Jeff, I appreciate the time as always. Great information.
My pleasure.
Get in contact with Pat, Jeff, any of Fitch-Rona EMS staff if you're interested in getting involved in Stop the Bleed. They'll get you hooked up and get you trained.
Yes. Visit the Fitchburg and the Fitch-Rona libraries. We'll have Stop the Bleeds in 2019 there. Certainly you can email me. My contact information will be here. You can check on our Facebook site. Our website will have it as well.
Perfect. Jeff, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Holidays to you. Tell Pat hi and everybody there for us.
I will do that.
All right, we need to take a quick break. We'll wrap up the show next. You are watching Talking Fitchburg.